Vivek Ramaswamy tears into Mark Cuban in this heated debate over DEI policies in the workplace. I'm Vince with Resist the Mainstream. If you enjoy our content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so we can keep bringing you videos like this. And that said, let's get into this recent debate over DEI.
Right, based off of the traditional DEI views.
And that's
Black
accurate.
Americans,
What you just said is accurate. It's fact.
Right.
So why bother to specify that target or goal in the first place? Because your point is they're not even meeting it. And you're right about that in many companies.
When you say they're not meeting it, that's just confirmation that it's not a quota. Because a lot of people will take that number and project that as a quota. Why would they do it? It's a quota, but they never meet it. None of the companies ever meet it.
What's the purpose of setting that goal on the basis of race or gender in the first place, Mark?
When you talk about portfolio management in your company, right, and you talked about you're going to have failures and you're going to have successes, and you probably had a target for your return on equity that you wanted to get, right? And so you said, I've raised this money, I'm investing this money, we're going to have hits and misses, and our target return is 23%. Same thing, right? Good companies look at their employees as capital, right, as intellectual capital. Yeah. And where you want to have a better portfolio outcome for your intellectual capital, there's certain things that you want to see happen. One of them is diversity. And now when I talk about diversity, and I've put this up on Twitter, that means going out there and just like you look for the best ARBs across all bio companies, right? You didn't care where they were located, looking for the best employee, the most capable employee means turning over rocks where other people don't look. And you probably found some of your best deals by looking where others don't look. And I found some of my best employees by looking where others don't look.
Why denominate? I agree with you so far, but why denominate it based on race? Why take this top-down category that and I'll tell you why it gets under my skin is, I think it causes us to be more divided when we see each other on the basis of our skin.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree. Okay, so let's go to your point, right? Yeah. Let's go to your question. Let's just say I'm looking at a drug company, Roivant. How did you pronounce your company name?
Roivant was my first company.
Yeah. Roivant, right. So I have Roivant. And I recognize that for cancer drugs, they're all ignoring them. Everybody's ignoring cancer. So I'm going to set a target for cancer drugs because I know everybody else isn't looking there. Yeah. They're missing it. And so I'm going to go where these cancer drugs are being made, where they're not making enough an investment in them. And I'm going to go to focus, not necessarily focus there, but I'm going to extend my ARB reach and my look to include those cancer drugs from companies I think don't do a good job of figuring out the value in that drug. That is what D in diversity is. It's saying, look, there's a lot of women, Black, Asian, whatever it may be, people that I think are not being recruited. That there are a lot of people who may not have the best test scores from the best school, but they may have a lot of soft skills from their experiences. And I'm going to go.
So hold on, right off the gate, the issue with what Mark Cuban is saying is what he is describing is meritocracy, right? He's describing, oh, well, maybe this person who didn't come from a target school may have some soft skills or life experiences, or they're able to do something, right? We're thinking outside the box because we have these characteristics we look for. That's not DEI, right? That's not the policies that we're talking about. That is not what conservatives have an issue with. Conservatives have an issue with when you have two equally qualified people, or in some cases, maybe the white guy is even more qualified, but we take the other candidate because they're a minority simply on the basis of their diversity off of characteristics that people cannot even control. So Mark Cuban has himself entirely confused right now. What he is out here defending is not DEI policies. He is making the argument for hiring people based on their skills. And yes, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to come from this university. Maybe they don't have the same experience, but there's something intangible. They gave a good interview. That's all fine. But that has to do with their merits, not with their DEI, not with their race, not with their gender, etc. So he's completely confused here, and he's been doing this for a long time. Every time he defends DEI, he will make an argument for meritocracy and then say it's DEI. I don't know. He's entirely confused. Probably part of the reason he is supporting Kamala Harris, but I digress.
So I'm going to find...
What's the E?
Okay, well, let me finish this point, right?
Yep, we'll play forward.
So I'll get to the E, right? I'm going to go go and find the best possible candidates that I can. And they're going to compete with everybody else. Just like when you at Roivant, you compete with your cancer drugs, have to compete in potential return for the non-cancer drugs, right? And so in my diversity, when I go out and I look at this, I'm going to say this person, this woman, African-American woman who was from this small school that I've never recruited at, she's brilliant. And when I compare her to other people that I might hire, she's better. Now, this other person, African-American, another small school I typically don't recruit at, they may not be good enough. I'm not going to hire them just because they're black from a small school that nobody else recruited at. They have to qualify. So then
That's not the meaning of equity either, right? That equity means equal outcome. Okay, what you're describing is equal opportunity, which would be equality. Okay, so you got a black woman, maybe they're from a different school, but I'm gonna give them the same interview, gonna look at their qualifications equally to, I don't know, the white guy who came from Harvard or something. Fair enough, that's called equality, right? That's equal opportunity. What equity says is that you would have to hit perhaps a certain target quota of black women because we want equal outcomes. Okay, so regardless of whether or not this individual is qualified, hey, we need to hit a quota because we want the outcomes of hiring to be equal. Therefore, that's what we get. Okay, that's completely different. So once again, Mark Cuban here has his definitions completely confused. Okay, he thinks DEI means meritocracy. He thinks equity means equality. No. So here he is making arguably the right-wing arguments, but he's giving them the left-wing definitions. I don't think he knows what he's really saying here.
Hired this African-American woman from this small school because she has amazing soft skills, maybe not the best test scores. That's where equity comes in, right? Equity means putting people in a position to succeed, giving them the tools that they need. So she might have soft skills I invested in this company called Scoutable, right? Scoutable.com. And all they do is they have people play these games. And when you play the game and thousands and thousands and thousands of people have played the game, it helps you it does, based off the results in the past you take, they'll compare them to other successful people in other vertical areas, right? Programming, bio, and they'll look for similarities. They'll do a statistical analysis and they'll say, look, this person who we found in the middle of nowhere doesn't have a computer science degree, but the soft skills that they have matches up perfectly to our best programmers. Okay. So we're going to take a chance on that person. And the E in equity says, we're going to give them extra computer training because we know based off of the data that we're using, they're very capable in ways other people aren't going to find the diversity, and we're going to give them the tools to put them in a position to succeed. Whether or not they will succeed is up to the ability of us to train that person and up to their ability to live up to what we expect of them. If they don't, they'll get a chance or two like every other employee. They'll get, a report from HR saying, here's what you got to do if you're not doing well. And you still have to compete and you still have to do well.
So nobody has an issue with this. Okay, nobody has an issue with that. What we're saying is that the skills you look for in your diversity should be diversity of skills, maybe diversity of experience. Okay, that's all fine. Knowledge, whatever. The point the right-wingers make is that racial diversity or sexual diversity are not relevant to, the workplace or how they function or whatever. Therefore, they should not be qualities that are considered. However, in the DEI policies that Mark Cuban seems to misunderstand, that is exactly what happens. Okay, so that's the issue. Again, we don't disagree with what he's saying, but his definitions here are completely screwed up. He thinks he's describing the DEI policies, and maybe that's how they work for him, but that's not how en masse they work. That's not how something like affirmative action also works when it comes to colleges and universities, okay?
That's the E.
Here's my own just view on, get into the best answers on anything, right? You got to try on the other side like a set of clothes. Trying the best argument for the other side like a set of clothes, and if it fits, you keep it, and if it doesn't, you put it back on the rack.
You iterate, yeah. You iterate.
So
right. Always iterate.
I appreciate a lot of what you laid out. I think it's an interesting perspective. I'm doing my best to try it on. I'll tell you why for me it feels like it doesn't fit. Okay.
Sure.
Is when I look at the results. Now here's where you can measure the results. I'll actually give you a couple examples. So give you a couple examples in response. One is one of the areas where you look at results of whether you believe you actually have a true meritocracy or not, where you could actually get the actual numbers to do this, is when you apply that same philosophy to the level of universities. So I know you're talking about it from the level of
Two different worlds.
Okay.
Two different worlds.
All right, so you do have different views then. You do have different views.
Oh, yeah. Look, I think I've said this
online. About the number
too,
of kids who are like Asian kids who can't get into a university because they got a 1600 on their SAT.
Two different worlds.
Good at sports, good at musical instruments, and can't get into even their safety school. That is a direct product of a lot of the targets, even not hard quotas, but soft targets that these universities have set.
Academics are different because the goal is different.
All right, so we're on the same page. So we're already on the same page there. All right, so universities.
So you're agreeing with me that DEI. So first of all, let's make sure we're on the same page. You're agreeing with me that DEI is good for business.
No, I'm not agreeing with you there. I'm not agreeing.
Yeah, I didn't hear any.
Well, because I was going to go to the universities, but it sounds like we agree on the universities. But let me.
Look, if it were up to me, universities have too much overhead.
So I think here's what I would say is on your definition of DEI and the way you define it, which I believe is quite different and far more sympathetic, to me at least, than the accounts that you might hear from other proponents of capital D, capital E, capital I. But on your telling of it, my pushback would not be that I disagree with a lot of what you said, but that it then makes DEI redundant. Okay, because if you're running a business, well, let's just go back to that sole metric that you evaluated in the first place, which is maximizing your return on equity. If that's your actual metric that matters, there are a million different targets that need to roll up into that.
Of course. And they're not mutually exclusive.
And of course, and it's different for different companies, right? So my view is it's got to fall out of the mission. It's got to be mission driven by the company. So every company.
Of course it is.
Yeah. So
of course it is.
If I may, right?
So and when you go ahead.
Yeah. Just to make sure we get the view on the table, because it's not the classical disagreement. It's just a slightly different type of disagreement. So let's say your company has a mission. Okay. I'll give you a good example, actually. This will be very personal to me. Let's say your mission is that you're a steakhouse, okay, and you want to serve your steakhouse chain, and you want to serve good, high-quality steak to your customers. Like any business, you're going to need different types of diversity to make your business successful. There are certain types of diversity you want, certain types of diversity you don't want. The kinds of diversity you might want people who are good wait staff, you might want people who are good at the cash register, you might have good managers, a good chef, okay. Even the kind of diversity you want, I would add a lot of diversity to the ranks of a steakhouse. I'll tell you why. Because I'm a vegetarian. I'm a vegetarian on principle. It's a part of my religious upbringing, but
I'm pescatarian. I'm pescatarian.
Right? So I don't believe in killing animals for culinary pleasure. It just happens to be a family belief of mine, and that I've raised in and that I raise my kids in as well. I respect the right of the steakhouse to go pursue its own mission. I don't think the government should be stopping them from doing it. But even though I would add diversity to the ranks of the steakhouse, I don't think that would necessarily make them better because it doesn't align with their mission. So every business has to ask itself what kind of diversity.
Wait. So you're saying because you're vegetarian, how would they add you to the? How would you want?
I would add diversity. So my point is, I would add
diversity where?
Intellectual diversity of thought to a steakhouse, right? But I wouldn't be a good employee because I'm not aligned with the mission.
Come on, Vivek. Come on, Vivek.
No, come on. The point I'm making is
diversity.
This. Different types of businesses need different types of diversity. That's the whole.
And Mark Cuban's going to go on here and basically say that's a ridiculous example. It has no application to the real world, except it does. I'll give you a recent example, right? Bud Light. What happened there? You have a beer that is drinking primarily by like Gen X men, a lot of whom are Republican or Republican adjacent, whatever. And then you hire someone to do your marketing who is totally not aligned with that, doesn't understand the user base or whatever. And the moment they did, what happened? Did Dylan Mulvaney and completely tanked Bud Light as a company, right? So that's a prime example of what Vivek Ramaswamy is talking about. Bud Light achieved diversity, right? They got a diversity in their, marketing department and all of that. But what happened? It was counterintuitive to the mission and the target demographic of the business. And hence you have the Bud Light debacle. Prime example, very analogous here to what Vivek was actually bringing up.
Of course.
So how could it be that every business sets the same quota or same target based on race or gender, when in fact every business should say we need this type of diversity, people who have experience in the humanities or math?
They do.
And they already do by focusing on return on equity instead of focusing on actual D, capital D diversity.
They go hand in hand. They go hand in hand because that CEO, if they can't hit their equity goals, right, their ROE goals, they're getting fired. Right, they're gone.
So
Just
that's what it comes down to. The ROE goals, the return on equity goal, which means there's a million factors you got to cover. Why do you want one blanket category of diversity?
It's not one blanket strategy. No CEO with half a clue.
Because it's
it doesn't.
It's the same.
You're hoping
race and
it does.
gender. Race and gender is what it always comes down to, or sexuality now too. When people are talking about diversity, I'll give you a good example, Mark. So your business, you sold your business in Yahoo. They're listed on the NASDAQ, right?
So there you have it, folks. Mark Cuban and Vivek Ramaswamy seem to debate over DEI, although I don't even know if I would call it a debate because Mark Cuban doesn't even understand what DEI means or actually does. So that said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. But until next time, I've been Vince with Resist the Mainstream. Peace.